Hello, YouTube, and welcome back to Brewing with Magic. Well, it's still spoiler season, so Will is still here helping me out. Hey, Will, how you doing?
Hey everybody.
So, today we're going to go over a few of the cards from yesterday and a few of the cards from today. Most of the cards that came out today, but not all of them. And what we're going to be looking at today is the learn mechanic and then the lesson cards. And not all of them, but a couple of them and what we have. So, now before we get into that, I do want to remind you that you should hit subscribe right now, because if you do, then you're automatically entered into our free 3400 gem giveaway as soon as we hit 100 subscribers. Like the video and leave us a comment down below. We would love to hear from you. So, should we get into the cards, Will?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so let's start out with Field Trip. Field Trip is a sorcery for 1 green and 2 colorless, and it reads, search your library for basic forest card, put that card onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. I like that. And then you get to learn, and I'm not going to do this with every card, but just to remind everybody, I'm going to read learn on this one. Learn. You may reveal a lesson card you own from outside the game and put it into your hand, or discard a card and draw a card. So, oh, and I do want to let people know that unless something changes from what I was reading on the rules, on the Twitter and the internets, you know, everybody's still learning all the cards. But from what I read, I do believe that if you are in limited format, that you cannot go get a lesson from outside the game, even if you had drafted one, if it wasn't in your starting deck. So, what do we think about this card, Will? What are we doing?
It's good. For a sorcery, getting one land or basic forest and putting it into the battlefield tapped, you're immediately putting in, which is good. But again, with Cultivate right now, better because you're getting 2. But with the Learn mechanic, that's what makes this card probably going to be a little bit better, just due to the fact that now you can pull a card from outside of the game that you might need at that exact moment, still putting a land onto the battlefield. So as we start to see more lesson cards come up, I think we'll probably see more value out of these cards that we might not think right now they might be worth it.
I mean, I 100% think this, depending on what lessons we see, this could be a direct replacement for Cultivate in the future, so we'll see. Okay, well next we have First Day of Class. 1 red, 1 colorless. This one's an instant. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control this turn, put a +1/+1 counter on it, and it gains haste until end of turn. So what do we think of this one that has Learn?
Actually, I like this card specifically. I think for a deck where you're really just trying to go at them really fast, add to value, but then get a card outside the game, put it in your hand, and figure out what you need to do, or discard and cycle immediately into something else that you might get. I just think this card is going to be really good in red.
Okay, I'm thinking, it's 1 red, 1 colorless, and it gives you a red haste creature and a white 1/1 human, I believe.
Yeah, you get a hasty dinosaur and you get a 1/1 human.
I'm thinking on turn 4, boom, boom, something like that. Then you got 2/2/2 haster. I don't know, maybe it's there, maybe it's not. So next we got Pop Quiz. 1 blue, 2 colorless, instant. Draw a card and learn.
Yeah. So, again, blue, I get to draw my card. But the cool part about this one, again, and as we start to figure out more about the lesson cards from learning, being able to draw a card plus get a card, I think you're going to see a lot of value out of this card as well. I know it sounds maybe a little clunky, a little bit slow. I'm paying 3 to draw 1, but technically you're drawing 2. So just you get to pick the 1 out of your 15.
Now, is it going to go draw on the stack, then learn on the stack, do you think? And so you'll have to learn first? Or do you think it's going to, I'm assuming by how it's worded, or is learn going to be on the stack, then draw a card? If you draw a card you don't like, then you could discard that one to go draw again if you decide not to get a lesson. Do we know the answer to that yet?
I don't think we do, but if I was just go off of basic, Magic, standpoint, I would probably say it would be draw as first on the stack,
and then
learn.
So resolving learn first.
Yeah, resolving learn first.
I have a feeling you're right. So okay, and next we have Rise of Exodus, which is either 2 white or 2 black, or the combination of, and 4 colorless. Sorcery: exile target creature, and then exile up to 1 target instant or sorcery card from the graveyard. What do you think about this card, Will?
So what I think is that it is an expensive card for standard, but in limited, it might be a good value card just to be able to exile something. I know it's expensive, but it's 6. But since you might be playing in limited, this might be a good removal spell. But in standard itself, I think it might be overpriced for what you're trying to do at this cost with the cards that are currently in the meta. Once we switch and we rotate and this is in, I think that it might see more value, but for now, I just think it's a little too expensive.
Yeah, and I definitely think I agree with you in the limited format because, say, if anybody has played limited out there, late game lands are not always what you want. If you already have, say, 6 or 7, usually that's all you need. So even though you can't go and get a lesson with this, at least you can ditch that land and draw a card after you've killed their creature. So this could be a late game, a little bit of a blowout if both people are low on cards. So next we have Study Break. 1 white, 1 colorless. It's an instant. Tap up to 2 target creatures and learn.
Yeah, I think this card could be good, especially in a white control-y, white weenie, I'm just trying to outvalue you kind of deck. Because not only are you tapping their creatures, trying to deal that extra damage, maybe you're going to just try to get in for that extra point of gaining life so you can start creating that 4/4 angel. And then on top of that, get the card that you might need out of your 15. So I think this might see value, just again, as we see more lesson cards start to come into play.
Yeah, and if you're on the play as opposed to the draw, and you're going against an opponent who's trying to do something like, get out a great hengeway early by throwing mana dorks during their, right after they're untapped during their upkeep before they, go into draw or main phase, you can go ahead and tap 2 of their mana dorks and just slow them down a turn, maybe even. Yeah. So interesting. Okay. Then we have Guiding Voice for 1 white. It's a sorcery. Put a 1/1 counter on target creature. Learn.
I just think it's a good little pump spell, and then if you're able to synergize this actually might go good in Historic, where you're able to recast this again from your graveyard using different mechanics that we have in there right now with certain creatures that are able to play sorceries or instances from your graveyard. So I think this is good because you might get a double out of it, which is a +1/1 counter for a creature, learn, and then do it again on your next turn. So I think it'll probably see more play in Historic, but when it comes to Standard, I think it's okay.
I'm thinking maybe a Selesnya tokens deck, maybe. Other than that, it's not enough of a combat trick compared to what we have out there. +1/+1 and indestructible till end of turn is pretty hard to beat at the moment. So, okay. So, lastly, for our cards that have the learn for today, we have Enthusiastic Study. 1 red, 2 colorless, instant. Target creature gains +3/+1 and gains trample until end of turn. Learn. What are we doing with this?
Yeah, I think this is a good over-the-top card. If you're really trying to play on the beatdown game, maybe just to get in, maybe play it with giants, and pull a lesson card out afterwards. So not only are you trying to get value right off the bat and just go over the top to win, but then also maybe getting a second follow-up card that you might be able to play as an instant as well. That might be a lesson to do some even more damage. So I think it might be a maneuverable card. I don't think it's too outpriced. I mean, I would have loved to see it for 2, but you're getting a +3 and trample. So, I mean, I guess you're getting the best of both worlds.
I mean, 3 for +3/+1 and gains trample might be a bit much in my opinion for a mono red rush deck, unless for some reason we get a lesson that's attached to something like an Embercleave, and then I think that's an instant staple in any red. So we will see. So okay, well next let's take a look at some of those lessons that we can go and grab. So the first lesson we have today is Environmental Science. 2 colorless sorcery lesson. Search your library for a basic land card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. You gain 2 life. Ugh, into your hands, man. They always make me sad. I want onto the battlefield, but maybe I'm asking to. Tell me, do you go and search for this card just so that you can put a land in your hand and gain 2 life?
So for this card, honestly, I don't see the value in grabbing this right off the bat. I'm not sure that that's something that I would be searching for and trying to grab and make that as my play for the turn. I think overall, what I would actually be doing is trying to grab something that would really give me value at that exact moment. Now, say I'm down a land and I needed to ultimatum or something the next turn, and this was the only way to do it, then I guess I have to. But I just don't think this would be one of those cards that I'm like, hey, I'm so excited to grab right off the bat.
It kind of made me think, like, I mean, I don't know if it's even worth putting in your deck, but I guess you could avoid putting a mountain in your deck if you're playing Tybalt's, if you have this card in your deck, because you can go just grab that mountain from your sideboard. So next we have Pet Summoning. It's either 2 black, 2 green, or the combination of and 1 colorless sorcery lesson. Create 2 1/1 black and green pest creature tokens with when this creature dies, you gain 1 life. So not quite 2 for 2 1/1s, but what are we doing with? Okay, Will, do we like this card? What are we doing with this?
Yeah, I mean, I think for an Aristocrats deck, this card might go well. I mean, we have Valentine, Dean of the Vein, that was just released, Menace Lifelink. And his ability is, you know, when you pay 2, if a creature has died, you create a 1/1 green pest creature token that does the exact same thing as this. So if you're trying to get value out of that, or if you're using like sacrifice mechanics of some sort, then maybe that's what you're grabbing it for. But for the most part, again, I'm not seeing this as a strong card that I'm going to go for unless it's part of a combination deck that I actually need it for.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay. Next, we have Expanded Autonomy, 3 colorless sorcery lesson. So nice amount of colorless lessons, it seems like, in here for everybody to play with.
Yeah.
So this one is put 2 +1/+1 counters on target creature. It gains vigilance until end of turn. So for 3 mana for a colorless sorcery, what do you think?
Yeah, you know, again, I'm not super like wow about
Feels
these
limited,
but yeah, this definitely feels like a limited card. But
which you'd
unfortunately,
have to be main deck. It would have to be in your deck. That's the other
yeah, but
problem.
unfortunately, you can't. So this card specifically, I would say again, I'm not like yay about. This it definitely is very much of a niche card. Maybe if you're building a Celestia deck and you're trying to get those extra counters, you have a Vortex on the board, you're trying to do something with it, then maybe. But for right now, since these are uncommon cards, you're getting uncommon value.
And then we have Introduction to Prophecy. This is also a colorless sorcery lesson. Scry 2, then draw a card. So, man, you at 2 mana, I think you would have had me. What do you think about this?
I agree with you. I think it's a little overpriced for Scry 2. I mean, don't get me wrong. If you're playing one of the cards, you're getting value from the card and you're being able to learn from it to get this lesson. And you need to kind of like move yourself forward because all you are seeing like lands or something.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it's a necessary need because then you can kind of go through your deck, scry your 2, then draw your card, maybe even like kind of set your next turn up. So I can see this being probably the most valuable out of this set that we're talking about. So
Yeah,
far.
out of the, I can't wait to see maybe a mythic lesson. Let's see what that brings us. So,
Yeah.
okay. And last for today, we have Introduction to Annihilation, 5 colorless sorcery lesson. Exile target non-land permanent. Its controller draws a card. I mean, 5 colors to exile anything that's not a land seems, I believe in the, I think that's strong, right? Or
I mean, I think it's a good card just due to the fact that it's a answer all kind of card. So especially if you're playing a control deck or a mid-range deck and you need to get rid of something, the part I don't like about this, and again, being a common card, is that it's giving the controller the value to draw cards. I'm not a big fan of giving my opponent the ability to draw a card, but if it means removing their best threat at that turn, maybe it's a necessity that you might need to pull from. But again, like I said, we're looking at a common, so I'm hoping there's better.
I mean, would you rather your opponent draw a card or have an Ugin?
Yeah.
Also, in a pinch, if you're in the control match and you don't have anything else to do, you guys are at top decks, and some reason you have a 1/1 token out from a previous Auron's Epiphany. I mean, you could always exile your own creature to draw a card. It sounds horrible. I'm not saying you should do it, but it is an option. So, okay, Will, is there anything else that you would like to tell the people before we go?
Yeah, just don't forget, guys, we're really trying to get to that 100 and give away some free gems. So if you haven't done it yet, please subscribe.
Yeah, subscribe, hit that like button, leave us a comment down below. We do love hearing from you. We try to respond to everybody. And as always, until next time, have a blast in the arena.